What's up, world? You already know what time it is. We're back again with the end of the month for another Wrapped. So yeah, as I say every month, we are chock full with a bunch of events. So we're going to jump into ones that we thought were interesting. So I have my co-host Aaron here from Poor Finance, and we're gonna dive in. Starting off, and this is a weird way to start, but we're gonna jump into it anyway. So there was an issue between YK Osiris and Sukihana, and if you don't know those two people, then you might want to skip to the next chapter. But either way, there was a I think it was a basketball event, and there was a lot of like social media people there, and I don't know why this guy decided to do this, but everything about it was just cringeworthy. He literally was like standing over her, and then next thing you know, he's like pulling his face in to like kiss, and it looked like it at one point. It looked like it was staged. Until you saw her face. She, like, the moment when he came up, she looked terrified.
Uncomfortable, for sure.
And it was one of those things where it's like, it in this day and age where we've spent so much time with, like, Me Too and people getting canceled for things that were less egregious than this, it was weird to see this again. So, I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I feel like there's so many things to uncover here, but like, what were your thoughts?
Well, you said there's so much to uncover. I think this is probably one of the most cut and dry situations I've ever seen, because there's no situation under which you should be, unless it's someone that you're already romantically or sexually involved with. There's no situation under which you should be grabbing a man or a woman and doing things to them in any manner, be it sexually or not, without their consent, or at least, you know, like I said, if it's romantic or other kind of relationship that you already have, you already know what you can do within the guidelines of your own relationship. But if that has not been established, then you really should not be doing the things that he's doing. So for me, it's like it's not acceptable, and it's something that should definitely. He should be shamed for that. You know, we're in the social media age where they're always shaming and canceling people for things. That's something you should be shamed for, because there needs to be an overwhelming message that this type of behavior is not okay, period.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of I guess the reason I said there's a lot to uncover is because people were taking like different points on it. Like they're like, oh, she is known for saying some like very like egregious stuff on, you know, on the internet and in her music, and
right,
so it,
right.
you know, so I guess I don't know if you know, it's one of those things where it's like, oh well, it's just like you know, she was open to it, like it's kind of victim blaming ish, but to me it just feels like egregious, as you said. It's like it's not something that should be happening to anybody, especially something like that in front of everybody. It's worse when it's like, yeah, there's no cameras, because then you get into this whole space where we've been for years, where people have something happen, everybody tells them and they don't believe. This legitimately happened on this event, and I think the event was called Crew League, and it was so many people.
Yeah.
It was
public.
And the thing about it that was worse is that when he was done, he was like laughing, like he didn't realize that
Right.
was wrong. And I'm like, it's just to me, it's weird. It was a weird timing there, but.
And then there's you know, when we back away from what should happen and what did happen, there's also human nature, right? I'm still standing on the side that what he did was incorrect. However, there is legitimately human nature and human behaviors, and if I present myself as a gangster, there's a good chance that depending on where I go, people are going to test me. If I'm a UFC fighter or a boxer, there's going to be people who are going to have that mindset. They see me, throw your hands up. Let's do this. Let's see, as Nipsey said in that song, let's see what your texture is worth. So now someone who's in the sex industry, even though it's not right, human nature may go in the direction of treating you the way that they see you portraying yourself. So there is that. Again, I'm not using that as an excuse to say what he did was right, but there is some semblance of understanding as to why he would have thought that was okay, simply because of how this person portrays themselves online and their online persona. And again, I'm not using that as an excuse, and I feel like I need to repeat that because it seems like we live in an age where people are mentally incapable of comprehending things these days, but that is a reality. So you have to truly project the behaviors online that you expect to have brought back to you in the public eye. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying if you do certain things online, you cannot expect 100% of the population to just adhere. That's just a human behavior conversation. I'm not legitimizing it at all.
Yeah. I hear that. I guess my biggest thing there is just like to use your analogy of what happens online and social media. It's like we didn't look at Arnold Schwarzenegger as the killer. That man was killing so many people in movies, right? Like it's a persona he was playing.
But do we not look at Arnold, at least at that time, did we not look at Arnold Schwarzenegger as a strong, capable, almost alpha male? So in reality, when people approached Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm sure there was a certain level of respect that was already ingrained into them because of how he portrays himself. I'm very unwilling to bet that there is someone out there during that time when Arnold Schwarzenegger was competing in, I don't know if it was Mr. Olympias that he was competing in, but when he was competing in these competitions where he was a bodybuilder, as well as when he was doing the Terminator movies and things, people probably looked at him as someone you don't F with. So I'm going to assume his persona in the movies definitely translated to his real life interactions with human beings.
Well, the one thing I would say is if you were considering like everything about his persona and everything, and in the movies that he played, you wouldn't see him running for governor, right? Like he would. That my thing is like that's where it's like I feel like that's why I said there's so many things to uncover with this. Because granted, yes, she says a lot of crazy stuff in her songs and stuff like that, but so does a lot of other people. And if he had gone up to like Lil Kim or Nicki Minaj, it would have been a different story because it would have probably been treated differently.
I don't know if I can compare Kim and Nicki to Sukihana because neither one of them is giving it up on OnlyFans. There's an extra layer here. There's exuding sexuality, and then listen, if you saw a porn star in a public space, I'm willing to bet the majority of people are going to be respectful. But there's going to be a person or two who's going to think they can take it a little bit further simply because of her online or her screen persona. Again, I'm not saying that it's right, but there are people whose brains translate what they see on the screen to what I expect in reality.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's true because I think a lot of times in that people have whole, relationships with people in their head. Like, I know this person. I've seen them in so many videos.
They feel like they got a connection with them.
They feel like they have a connection, and the truth is, this person has no idea. But I feel like it goes both ways. Even with music, I feel like there are going to be times where people are going to try
100%.
I guess, yeah. But I agree with what you're saying. I just to me, it's still. It felt like sexual assault.
It was definitely sexual assault.
It just,
and it was not right.
In this day and age, in this day and age. But either way, I guess we can go on. As I said, that's why I felt like it was a lot to, it was definitely like a multi-tiered, like iceberg.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Which is
A
terrible
multi-tiered
transition.
iceberg, huh? Speaking of icebergs,
Terrible transition. So we're talking about the.
wow.
Oh my god, I'm going to hell. This is terrible. Listen. I don't know why I do this to myself. Anyway, we're gonna move on and talk about the submersible called Oceangate and the tragic loss of life there.
Tragic.
But some of the most regrettable decisions made led to this, and it seems like it could have been avoided.
Yeah, probably the biggest story of the month of June. Not probably. It was without a shadow of a doubt the biggest story of the month of June. And I don't know, unless you live under a rock, there were 5 individuals who lost their lives, unfortunately, by deep diving into the ocean outside of Newfoundland, Canada, to go visit the wreckage of the Titanic. And this submersible was built by Oceangate. Unfortunately, leading up to this dive, there were quite a number of questionable elements that were going on here with this submersible. The carbon fiber usage of materials is one of them. The almost janky put together parts from Camper's World and washers from the Home Depot and a Logitech gaming controller to control this thing. The fact that it closes from the outside and there's no way of opening it once you're inside of it. It is this cylinder that you're sitting in. It's using recycled air for oxygen. It's just, there were so many elements to this submersible that were questionable. It's hard to believe that anyone, be it billionaires or not, anyone would trust their lives to this this vehicle. And the CEO, Rush, if I'm not mistaken, he seemed like a madman. He seemed like he was all about innovation, but he was not putting human life and safety before. As a matter of fact, he's quoted as saying, "If you want to be safe, don't get out of bed." I don't necessarily know that getting out of bed and feeling unsafe is the same level of safety as diving 13,000 feet into the ocean in a glorified carbon fiber wrapped bathtub. So, you know, unfortunately, those people lost their lives, and that's where we are.
The crazy thing about this to me was, if he had somehow survived this dive, would he still be considered a mad person?
Well, he did survive multiple dives. That was not the first one.
No, yeah, this was the 4th
Right.
one. So, do you feel like that if he had continued?
So you're saying if all of the events played out as they did, but they ended up finding them and they were alive, would he be considered a mad person? Absolutely. The thing lost communication with the mothership, and that's the reason why we even became aware of this in the first place. They dove down there, lost communication 1.5 hours into the dive, and then the individuals on the mothership had to do something, so they made, I guess, international authorities aware, which is why the U.S. and Canada were both involved in the rescue mission. Yeah. So yeah, he probably, not only would he have been considered to be a madman, he probably would have gotten arrested. I don't think there's any way that he would have been walking free if this became such a big, because they spent, I would have to assume, millions of dollars searching for these people.
They definitely did.
So he definitely would have faced jail time afterwards.
I asked just because the way that he kind of, from the videos you see from him and talking about it, he positioned himself as he was on the cutting edge of the submersible world. And I think that it really came down to the fact that he was curtailing a lot of restrictions and requirements that you have for that deep sea diving. And that's why you see like people like James Cameron have such like, you know, visceral, strong opinions, because like, yeah, he's been to the deepest place and in the ocean, but the regulations around that for him to go down and come back safe. He's like, he even took his son, and he's like, I wouldn't have taken my son if I didn't if I didn't feel like it was
Right.
something safe. And it's like, he's like, yeah, I would love to go down in a submersible with 5 people and have enough space for, everybody to move around, but that's just not how the technology is. We're not there yet. We're literally not there yet. So it's just wild to see this like just end up in this place, and to know that like this was very avoidable. And I know that, like, I don't know if you've heard, but there was like another story. It was all over it. It was so much stories about this. Like, even to this day, you still can't. I mean, we're talking about it. It's it's a whole month, like almost a month later, we're still talking about it. But I look at there was a story about Richard Branson's Virgin Oceanic thing, and they had bought some ship, and they were like, well, we want to take it down, and he's like, yeah, well, we could like unveil it, and they were like, well, you can only take it down once, and after that one trip, you cannot use it again. And I think that's probably more than anything. I'm not an expert, but there is a limit on the amount of time that these devices should have that level of pressure applied to them. And to know that they were bolting this thing closed from the outside with like a hand wrench from like Home Depot, like that's concerning. Like there's so many things about it that's wrong, but the questionable things to me, and just to move away from the actual Oceangate thing, is like everything that was going on around that time. One, it's there's rumors that it was that they knew it kind of exploded a long time before the search actually concluded, but they never told anybody. And that part doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I'm sure there's something beneficial from them having that, the eye of everybody, or it was such a trending story. But I guess the conspiracy theorist in me is like, well, what else was going on that we don't know about?
Well, I mean, it's quite possible that they still had to search for the vehicle, right? Even though, because my understanding is there was a possibility that it could have not imploded, and it could have just been on the ocean floor. I'm sorry, not the ocean floor, but the ocean surface, and just kind of like just drifting away with them inside of it, losing air. So, I'm not really much of a conspiracy theorist, even though there was a loud bang heard, even though they weren't 100% sure that they were going to find anything. You still have to try. So, unfortunately, well, I guess to a degree, it is fortunate that we have a conclusion to the story rather than assumptions and not having found anything. At least the families can kind of, I guess, grieve, and that's really it. But I don't necessarily believe that. I don't believe there's any government conspiracy. I mean, what could there be in terms of conspiracy that they could have been hiding? I mean, we kind of know the real elements of it. The guy created this submersible. The billionaires were in there. They paid $250,000 a pop, and unfortunately, they were diving with a madman who wanted to push technology. Believed in carbon fiber, which is not a proven material for anything having to do with underwater exploration, and that's where we are.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is, do you know that there was a whole issue, I think, in Greece,
Yes.
where a boat like with like 400 to 750 people, migrants died, and it got a quarter of the airtime of that, if that. And it's like, it's so interesting that we didn't. I'm not saying that's a conspiracy, and I 100% do not want to downplay the level of concern that someone would have trying to find somebody who's running out of air. But this is another maritime issue that literally happened at the same time that virtually no one was talking about. Like,
yeah, and you know what? I know that there is like a real thing where the media will cloud what is in front of you while other things are happening unspoken of, and it's almost like they pulled a gotcha on you.
mm-hmm.
But even though a lot more people were on that migrant boat, and even though a lot more lives were lost on that migrant boat, this submersible story, I'm speaking for myself here, I probably would have still, even if the migrant thing was getting most of the media attention, I probably would have been more interested in learning about this submersible thing, because I'm still befuddled by the fact that someone with all that money would be willing to go do this. This migrant thing of people, these are poor people trying to get themselves into a better life. We've heard of this time and time again. It happens all the time. People getting on boats leaving Cuba, people getting on boats leaving Venezuela. This is something that happens time and time and time again. Lives are lost. It happens on the road. People get stuffed into these vehicles where it's like baking hot trying to leave Mexico, and by the time it crosses US border and they find them, there's dead people in there, dead children, all kind of thing. So this kind of thing happens on a very regular basis, much more than we would actually know, because a lot of it doesn't get reported. But how frequently do you hear about people with billions of dollars getting into a janky bathtub and going thousands of miles down into the ocean? That's kind of a unique story. And even after it was all said and done, I still continue to I started to get a little bit of interest in the Titanic and started looking at videos of it. And I know about the story with Branson, and I know about the story with James Cameron. I've seen stories of submarines that have disappeared and stuff like actual submarines. So I think personally, it's just because of the uniqueness of this one story versus the other. That's what I assume.
Interesting. No, you're definitely right on point with there. The question always is like, what else is going on for me?
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. I'm sure that other things were happening in the background as this was happening. Yeah. One of the stories we'll discuss today was happening while this was going down.
Yeah, indeed. So the one thing I would say in closing for this topic is the internet is also a great tool, but a terrible place, because there's literally been nonstop memes about this and kind of, oh, you're a lucky guy.
Yeah.
Cannot escape them.
Well, apparently you can, because I haven't seen any of them.
Well, I don't understand how you do that.
You don't sign into. Well, it depends on what you follow and what. I have Instagram, but it's on my PC. So unless I go on my PC and specifically go to Instagram, I'm not seeing what's going on there. I have Twitter on my phone, but I use Twitter specifically for financial information. So I've seen zero memes of these guys with this submarine thing. Zero.
Well, okay. Well, then in that case, we're gonna leave it there.
Well, were you going to?
No. I just wanted to talk, touch on it, because it has the internet divided, because there's like people making like consistent fun of it, and then there are people like, oh, how can you even talk about somebody losing their life that way? And I'm like, it's interesting, but if you haven't seen any of them, then you're of the very small minority that has been spared from those, and I will not participate in tainting your experience.
I would have been on the side of the people saying, why would you make fun of this? Even though it was stupid, making fun of loss of human life is just another level of just inhumane. Something that would have to be seriously wrong with you to sit there and literally find enjoyment that people died. Unless we're talking about bad people who were, I don't know, doing things to kids or something like that. Yeah, people making stupid decisions. Like, you actually, a part of your day is better because they went away like this. That's crazy.
Well, I think really comes down to rich people spending money on stuff.
They're bored.
People people feeling a way about that.
Then they got to get their money up.
Well, yes, that's the goal, but it's like, to think that, what was the number? A couple $1 million were spent on I think there was like $3 million were spent on this trip. And then like $7 million, don't quote me, but was spent on the search and rescue.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's like, and if you put those numbers together, that money could be used for other things.
10 million. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. But that's actually one of the things, and this is not the place for that kind of conversation, but that's one of the things that actually scares me about maybe one day making it. What do you do? You know, when everything is paid for, when everything is catered, when you have nothing to think about, your friends around you who haven't quote unquote made it are still 9-to-5ers. You know, every day they're gone, they're working, they're grinding. What do you do? And this is when you sit down in your house and say, and I hate to laugh, but this is when you sit down in your house and say, maybe I want to go see the Titanic. And then you wind up here.
The one thing about this situation that's crazy to me is the kid.
Yeah, well, like, that's why I keep hearing everyone saying.
It's like imagine that you go down for something and that's it. But moving right along, we have another, you know. I'm trying not to be ridiculous with my transitions today because I was going to say we have another situation, another situation that was super lit. We're talking about the fires in Canada.
Oh wow, he says super lit. That's crazy. So you're trying.
That's what I said. First of all, you told me to do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm
yeah. Super, anyway, no, I mean, if you don't know, the East Coast actually multiple times at this point were blanketed with smoke as a result of the stuff that's happening in Canada.
Yeah,
and it shows you that we're all connected because no one would think that. Like I live in Maryland, Aaron's up in New York.
Yep.
And we both had the same experience when it came. Well, I think New York
a little worse, yeah, because we're bordering Canada.
Right, and I think to think that like we're it's whatever 500 something miles away, and you're still seeing that amount of smoke, and it's affecting your like the air quality. It's like. I remember when the Amazon was burning and it was like a news story, but to live it, it's a different thing. Yeah. And so it's kind of crazy to think. And just doing research on this, it was very fascinating because this is like also like a highest burn that they've had in 25 years or something like that. So. Like on recorded time, like it's saying, actually, when I look at it, it's like it's higher than the 25-year average just this 1 year.
And it's still going.
The amount of burning this happened. And it's still going. And it said it was caused by lightning.
Oh,
and it's like when you think about this, it's like, what could you have done for this? Yeah, like there's nothing that could have been done to prevent that. But it's also just showing the effects, I think, to me, of like global warming and the fact that we're in a place where something can happen so far away and it can affect us on a daily basis. And there's nothing we could have done about it.
No, it's crazy because as you mentioned with global warming, it's definitely taking its course because there's so many things, just the way the weather is behaving. It's like it's up, it's down, it's cold. It was cold well into the summer up here. And we just started getting what I would consider to be summer-like weather. So yeah, I mean, and I guess stuff like this isn't going to make it any better because now these flames are burning and it's dispensing all of this smoke into the atmosphere and then causing its own form of damage, which ultimately speeds up all of these effects even worse.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And there's like a couple of things I saw. They were saying that Nova Scotia saw its biggest fire on record. And then, like, also big fires in Quebec. And I'm like, it must be even worse for, like, people who are living in Canada because if we're getting it after it's been traveling all the way down here, they got it,
I could imagine.
Really, like, I can imagine. Yeah, like, that is just wild, man. So, first, like, everybody stay safe, but, like, I do want to say I'm glad that it wasn't something stupid like a gender reveal or some shit that started this because that would have been very
like
upsetting.
Someone setting
like the one in Canada. Yeah, there was one in LA in California at some point that was started from a gender reveal and it like burned down a huge area and I'm like that there should be jail time. For
Exactly.
something like that,
Took the words right out of my mouth. If you're doing a gender reveal and causing a massive blaze like that, fines and imprisonment need to be levied. Period. Done. Get them out of here.
Yeah. Now, something like lightning, you can't really do anything like that. I mean,
That's nature.
It's interesting. Yeah, but like, I think this one is actually going to be short because I don't think there's anything else to say. I mean,
Agreed.
Just like, sending positive vibes to the Canadians.
That's a fact. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Air quality, people like me, we suffer from this kind of thing a lot. So yeah, just stay safe. I don't know what you can do. Be inside, turn on the air, let the air be filtered, get yourself a good filter and just lock in.
Mm-hmm. On a lighter note, the question is this going to affect the supply of maple syrup? I just wonder. It's a stupid.
I don't know. I don't know if maple trees are getting burned in the process. I am not a consumer of maple syrup, so I don't know.
I just wonder, bro. The price of the maple syrup might go up now, bro.
I mean, hey, maybe it's time to invest in maple syrup then.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it might be. So on to another topic. This one was very disturbing. And I say this because it everything about it just feels very odd to me. So Zion Williamson, who is a basketball player from the Pelicans, is embroiled in what seems to be an unnecessary use of our time. But either way, it is. We're going to talk about it. So he and how do you say this right? Porn star Moriah Mills. I was trying to think of a better way. Adult actress. There we go. Adult actress Moriah Mills. Caused Twitter to actually block Moriah because she was going off.
I wasn't aware.
Oh yeah, they suspended her account.
Wow.
So Zion was apparently having some meetups with Moriah. But then at the same time, he literally got some other girl, I guess his girlfriend, according to news reports, it was his girlfriend, Akima, pregnant. And so then there was a baby reveal. As we said, baby reveals are causing all the stir these days. And so Moriah saw it, and then she started going off in what would refer to as a scorched earth campaign, where she literally just went off. I mean, she was sending messages on Twitter at the rate that would make Meek Mills jealous. It's just it was something else. It was Twitter fingers all day, bro. And there's so many things. One, we've gotten into this point where you have a conversation with somebody and somebody screenshots it, and then it becomes this thing that they have this whole thing on the internet for. And it just always feels so sleazy to me. Two, I don't understand how it is that this situation was allowed to kind of get to this point. Because I feel like NBA players normally have NDAs with these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, it sounded like she did sign an NDA, but she used a false name.
Wow.
Because granted, I'm assuming Moriah Mills is not her real name. So if you sign an NDA, it's no longer legally binding. So there's just a lot of questionable things about this. And it was to the point where she was threatening the NBA that she has sex tapes that she would release with him.
I saw that.
And I'm like, what is happening? I mean, granted, I think this is probably the most Moriah Mills has ever been searched, because her, as someone who has I've definitely seen some of her videos, and they're very skippable. She's an interesting person.
When you say not an interesting person, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about her adult videos?
Her adult, yes, adult.
Where's when you say not interesting, what do we mean exactly?
It's just like
she's not giving it up. She's boring, dead fish type behavior.
It's not worth going on the internet for this.
It's not worth burning the extra calories. No. Okay. I mean, I actually was not aware of the fact that she was an adult film star. I wasn't aware.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought it was just another internet thotty that he got himself messed up with, but I mean, hey, if the NDA is not legally binding, listen, the dude is what, 22 years old, 23?
Yeah.
These dudes need to have OGs in their corner that teach them how to move to avoid things like this, because it's hard to be in a position where you're young, you've got a lot of money, you've got a lot of resources in multiple facets, be it women and all these things coming in your direction, and being able to intelligently navigate those landscapes without making mistakes. Unfortunately, we live in the age of social media, so we're seeing his mistakes play out in the public eye, just like we've seen with John Morant. So
yeah,
hopefully he's able to bounce back from this. Man, these guys need to either learn to wrap it up or get vasectomies or something. We cannot be entangled with women like this. It's just not a good look in any. I can't think of one thing that would come out positive with dealing with women like this.
The one thing that I would say is that, when you mentioned John Morant, they're both in the same draft class.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was number 2 and Zion was number 1. And it's like, damn, that class is that. There's a couple other people on that list. I'm like, that class was terrible. But you did also point out another thing. This dude is young.
Yeah.
And he does have money.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that he ends up, you see somebody like Moriah and him have any kind of entanglement, because you're like, is this a double standard? Would we have treated a rich, like, if the tables were turned, would it not be considered kind of like grooming or
how old is she?
That's a good question.
Because the reason why I ask is because you mentioned the whole grooming thing, and quite frankly, yes, it would be if she's an older person than he is, and
she's 31.
Wow. Okay, so she's close to 10 years older than him. Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be considered that, but you know how society is. There's a lot of double standards that work in favor of men, and then there's a lot of double standards that don't work in our favor, and this is one of those double standards that don't work in our favor. If a 30-something-year-old man was to do this to a 20-something-year-old young woman, yeah, the internet would be ablaze. They would call him predatory. He would get hung and left out to roast. But because the tables are turned, and my understanding is there's actually women who are glorifying this, the whole yes, sis, get your money, this, that, and the other. They do it to us, blah, blah, blah. All this toxicity that exists in the Black community is one of those things that, it's something we see on a regular basis. There's the Brittany Renner situation. It happens. Yeah. It definitely happens, but it's one of those double standards that men will never be able to get away with, so to speak. We're always going to be the ones that are chastised when these things happen, and the women are going to be somewhat glorified when these things happen. So as men, we can only do the right thing, which, like I said, wrap it up, get vasectomies, whatever it is that needs to be done, or just outright avoid these women. But a lot of these young dudes with a lot of money, they're not going to do that. They're looking for who's hot, who's popping. So, and it's like odd because a lot of these men kind of like go after the same women. So now after this whole situation with Zion, I wouldn't be surprised if you see another person get wrapped up with her in something else. So
well, I mean, to that point, the question is, does she potentially screw herself there? Because if you are, messing with this type of dude, right, the ones who have money and they don't really care and all that stuff, and I know you have been embroiled in some ridiculousness worthy of removing you from Twitter. I'm talking about Twitter. Twitter is not like, and Elon Musk Twitter too. That's even worse. He doesn't want to block anything, right? So you were able to get your account suspended. Am I messing with you?
Not you, but
What?
the mentality out there. Listen, after the whole situation with, as mentioned, Brittany Renner, do you think her DMs were dry? Come on, man. You know that it started to flood. These dudes are stupid.
Well,
so
that's a good way.
I'm gonna say no. No one's trying to move away from that. They're trying to lean into it.
It's just interesting, but I mean, I wish him the best. I know
Agreed.
when I was out in Louisiana for Jazz Fest, and I had a Uber driver who was damn near requesting this man to be traded. So, because he's been from a basketball standpoint, he's been hurting, bro. He's literally been hurt, and I mean, his body is as one like the makeup of his body is gonna be hard to stay healthy. Like he's a big freaking dude. And you're beating your body up like that every night. I understand, but when you find time, you're supposed to be in rehab, bro. You're finding time to mess with these chicks, man. You gotta get back to the you gotta get back to the game, bro. But
he's young.
It's easy for us to sit here and judge decisions made when he has a level of resources and stuff like that. So I just hope that when he comes out on the other end of this, he's able to figure out what the hell he wants. But like,
agreed.
I think there's something to say about like how she handled it as well. Cause I'm like, there's a level of this like, like cringe that I don't understand.
Yeah.
But
expect more stories like this. This is never going to stop.
Well, moving along to another internet controversy. I don't know. I didn't have another word there. But no, so around Father's Day, which if you haven't already, those guys over at Juxtapose did a bomb Father's Day episode. I'm gonna just drop the link here somewhere for us.
Those guys.
And those guys, man, gotta shout out those guys. Anyway, but around Father's Day, there was some controversy between Russell Simmons, his ex-wife, and his kids. Russell Simmons, who is, I mean, iconic name in hip hop. He's like, he one of the first like very large record labels in hip hop, Def Jam, who everybody was signed to. He ran for many years. Is considered like, I would say like one of the uncles in hip hop, right? But his daughter released some videos of him, and it was just ridiculous. It seemed like the sad part about this is we don't have the full context of what was happening, but you do have the video of him looking just crazy.
Yeah, like
I'm just gonna play this. We don't have audio, but I'll just play the video of him just like screaming. And it looks like if you look at what if you're trying to read his lips and see what he's saying, it looks like he's like, she took everything, some of the other. I don't know. And I'm assuming this is playing out as a result of something between Kimora and Russell. Now, it all started when I think the youngest daughter, I can't remember which one's younger, Ming Lee, she posted Happy Father's Day, and she put a post of Kimora. So I guess that probably fired him off a little bit. But they call him an abuser. I mean, he's been dealing with Me Too issues. I'm surprised he didn't get fully canceled. So it's just like, what are your thoughts on this? And I don't even know what like.
It's unfortunate again because, a lot of the things I say go back to just, hey, we live in a social media age. Families have problems. When men and women go through divorces, it usually is not the most amicable of departures. So we're just literally sitting and looking at what is a typical family situation playing out in the public eye. Yeah, there are these Me Too allegations that took place with him, but I would say that that is separate from what's going on here. And my understanding is, yeah, he's saying that he's broke because Kimora Lee took him to the bank, so to speak, and he gave everything. I guess he says he tried to be the best father and husband he could be, and we will never know because we're just on the outside looking in. And from what I saw, at least growing up in the 90s and such, it looked like he was standing behind her. He gave her what was needed to launch that whole baby fat brand. So it doesn't look like, if he is a bad person, it doesn't look like he's completely bad person because you sat by him for how many years and allowed him to help you build a brand. So it's hard to say. There's always this capability with the internet, and as you said, with little context, being aware of what's going on here, we can put this this red label on one person and then green light the other person, not knowing the realities of what's happening, the intricacies of the actual relationship. If the daughters are standing behind the mom, is it because that he really truly was a bad person, or is it just that the children were brought into the mother's universe and they were given as they were weaponized against the father? Because that can happen a lot where women weaponize the kids against the dad. Who's to say? We really don't know. It's just unfortunate. And I don't know where this goes from here, but all I can say is I hope that they're able to resolve their situation out of the public eye, because that's the biggest problem here, is the fact that, again, we're just watching family domestic drama just play out on the internet.
And the sad thing about that is that it's always one-sided, right? Like it's always one-sided to the point where you have one person's point of view, and then people develop their whole story around that, and then you kind of go from there. But I mean, I remember seeing it even for oh my God, Kirk Franklin.
Oh,
Kirk
yeah.
Franklin,
Yeah.
they were giving, it was like a whole nother thing where it's like, oh my God, how could he talk to his kids like that? And I'm like, let's be real. I mean, I feel like you have to live a very specific life to not have your parents be mad at you at some point.
That is true.
I can't think of a time where like I spent my whole time without being in trouble for something.
It's what happens. And
So
our correspondent over here is advising that Russell Simmons actually responded by sharing a post that read, "Stop telling fathers they should have fought harder to see their children and start asking mothers why they had to fight at all." And that's legitimate.
yeah.
So again, that goes back to what I was saying. Are we dealing with a situation where he was a horrible father, or are we dealing with a situation where the mom weaponized her kids against their dad? We'll never know.
Well, that's what I say. I mean, and even in some of the screenshots here where between, because that's the other thing that is just, it feels so dirty. Because that's one of the things is in the average divorce proceedings, the fallout tends to only affect the people near to you. So like your friends and your direct family. But to have it be aired out on the internet, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, whoever brought it to the internet, I blame those people.
But it seemed like it was that. So, but like, even if you look at Kimora's post, and it was like, "I'm sorry to have to do this, but this man has been threatening my kids' lives. I hear so much. I'm hearing so much more now. We won't be bullied or threatened." And I'm like, so there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot there that I feel like there's more to the story. And I know there was another post that Russell made where he was like, I thought I had it here, but essentially he was saying that, he was being tested, and like it was more of what I feel like I would have grown to expect from Russell Simmons, because I feel like the one thing that I've always seen with him is that, and I remember one time I went like on a school trip, and I met both him and Kimora, and they were always like cool and about peace. And so to be to be in a place now where you're seeing is like, dang, like you really, give it up like that to your kids, like it's slightly disappointed, but at the same time, it's like we don't have the full story.
Correct. It's sad. It's sad,
Yeah.
and I'm just thankful that I've been, I guess, smart enough to make choices and partners in the past and present who don't bring what we have going on onto the web. That is the nastiest, most low character thing I think a person can do. Let's handle this some other way. On the internet? Come on, man.
So, yeah, I think there's a good way to switch that off. So moving along, we have like two more topics, and then we have a new section that we're talking about where we celebrate Black enterprise and Black excellence. So before we get to that, what's going on in the crypto world? I feel like this could be a whole podcast of itself, but
probably
from Suits, from I don't know, over at Pour Over Finance, I'm sure you handle a lot of this stuff, but what's the 1,000-mile view of what the hell is going on in the crypto world?
Well, the big overarching view of things is the United States is not very crypto friendly. That's basically what it boils down to. Asia is writing all sorts of regulatory rules to encompass crypto into the financial system in various manners. Europe has their own regulatory bodies that have also come out with clear-cut rules for how they want to handle taxes and cryptocurrencies and things of that nature. And the United States just is unwelcoming and unfriendly towards cryptocurrencies. And our regulatory bodies here are the SEC and the CFTC. The CFTC, they regulate commodities, and the SEC, they regulate securities. And the SEC is basically saying that cryptocurrencies, or a lot of them outside of Bitcoin, are securities. And to be quite honest with you, I understand why they would say that, but cryptocurrency is also somewhat of a new technology, so it's hard to encompass it into the same rules that were written for securities, like, say, for instance, buying stock from a company like Apple. So that's where the problem lies right now, and the SEC is basically just wagering war against various cryptocurrency exchanges, as well as various cryptocurrency projects like Solana, where they're just basically saying these are securities and you don't have the proper permissions to operate and sell securities in the United States, and the exchanges are carrying these securities without having the proper paperwork to do so. So we're taking everyone to court and we're going to shut it all down. Personally, I don't know what the real issue is, as you mentioned, being a conspiracy theorist. This doesn't seem like conspiracy to me. It seems like there truly is something happening in the background that we are not privy to, because when you start bringing in a system that's going to disrupt finances as we know it today, you start rustling a lot of feathers. And if I am making money over here and you're introducing a system that's going to interrupt or in some way depeg my ability to continue to do what I do, we're going to find a way to shut that down. Yeah. And that seems to be what's going on right now. So the crypto exchanges, as well as the projects, they're fighting back. They're raising their own lawsuits. Projects like XRP, which has been labeled as a security by the SEC, they're fighting the SEC. Coinbase is fighting the SEC. And that's pretty much what's going on. It's just a lot of litigation taking place in the crypto world. It's pretty much the United States of America versus cryptocurrency. That's basically what it boils down to.
So with that being said, what does the future look like in your mind for crypto in the United States? If they're actively trying to what feels like dethrone it because it did become. It came out of nowhere, and the underdog story was strong, right?
Right.
Like, what does the future look like?
The future is looking bright, in my personal opinion. Are there going to be some dips? Are there going to be some valleys before we hit those peaks? Absolutely. We're currently seeing it. Cryptocurrency, the market is currently still down. Even though we're seeing some green currently, it's still down at least 50% from its all-time highs in 2020, 2021. So right now we're kind of sitting in there, but things are looking up. We have various institutional bodies like BlackRock and Fidelity who are putting paperwork out there because they want to have Bitcoin ETFs. Well, actually, yeah, Bitcoin ETFs are what they're trying to go for, so that they can bring the institutional investment into cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. And if things like that happen, it is going to be more positive for the overall cryptocurrency scene, because everything that happens in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is kind of like the leading force, and then it kind of goes down from there to the rest of these currencies like Ethereum, maybe Solana, things like that. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens in regards to these court cases. Coinbase is fighting to have their lawsuit thrown out. XRP is fighting the United States in regards to XRP being a security, and there's a lot of belief that they will win that case. And we have all of these major institutions like BlackRock who control billions, well, actually trillions of dollars of assets under management, who is trying to get their own Bitcoin spot ETF going. So there's different things happening. There's no true way for the United States to just outright outlaw cryptocurrency right now. There's too much invested. There are too many bodies that are behind it, and there's too much fighting going on to just say, hey, it's just going to disappear. Is it going to change? Absolutely. I don't think that the landscape for crypto is going to look the same today as it did 5 years ago, where you could say invest 1,000 and then become a millionaire. It's going to settle down. It's going to be more like stocks in a way. And then a lot of these cryptocurrencies are just straight up here for the technology. So we're going to be seeing a lot of that. And that's where I see it going. It's going to eventually calm down. You're not going to see these insane stories. And to a degree, we do need more regulation, and we need clarity in those regulations, because hearing all the scams coming out of crypto is what's making a lot of these regulatory bodies say we need to be a lot more hardened in our approach to crypto.
Interesting. Well, I think it's such an interesting change, especially knowing that like crypto public acceptance, I feel like happened in like around the pandemic time, where that became such a household name.
Yeah.
Whereas there were people who were all about crypto for years. I mean, like Bitcoin has been if you use the internet, Bitcoin has been a thing that you've heard so many times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so fascinating to now see the SEC levy such a hard approach to it, and then at the same time, like everything that's happening with Fed now, it just
Right.
it feels like a dirty game, bro.
Yeah,
it feels really dirty.
Which is why I said I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it appears that there are things at play happening in the background that cryptocurrency is almost disrupting. And again, you start messing with people's money, they're going to push back in this way. And, these guys that make all the money, the top 1%, they're not going to let the bottom 99% get in on that action. They want to continue to remain the top 1% because that's what America is built on, right? Just greed. So,
indeed. Well, I mean, I we can talk about this all day.
Oh yeah,
but
me specifically, I could talk about this all day long.
Head over to Paul River Finance and check out Aaron's content, because he dives deep into all of this stuff, and it's always I'm always learning stuff when I watch his videos. Moving along to our last topic. This is gonna be very short, very short. So there was, and very light. There was also a little buzz at Home Depot, and it wasn't the bolts that locked the Titan in place, but we're talking about the Home Depot girl, who I I don't even understand why this was a thing. They were like, essentially, this girl was too attractive to work at Home Depot, and I'm like, attractiveness clearly wasn't paying her bills. That's why she worked at Home Depot. Like, I don't understand.
And then people act like Home Depot doesn't pay. I remember had to be close to no, not close to, over 15 years ago, maybe longer than that, trying to apply to the Home Depot because back then their starting pay was about $20 an hour. The Home Depot is a place that you can build a career just showing people what they need to fix their home or whatever. So yeah, I mean, the fact that she was overly attractive and working at the Home Depot, big deal. But my understanding is her overall goal was to become an influencer, and it seems like it's playing out that way.
It worked. I mean, we had Shaq DMing her, and that's another kid. Like that should be the like subtitle of this whole episode. It's like, stop screenshotting your DMs and your text messages, bro.
Man,
it just feels
facts,
dirty, bro.
Everybody just got to put everything out on the internet, man.
It's so weird. And maybe, you know, I'm not one of those people that believe like, oh, I'm just old. Like, you know, people talk about, oh, you're old. And I don't necessarily believe that.
Morality is old, I guess.
I feel like maybe that's where you starting to feel the age, where it's like, even like I remember when before COVID, when, you know, people were in the club and you go out and then people just taking mad pictures, not dancing. I'm like, you paid all this money to come out and do this? Like, why are you not having a good time? And so to have people like constantly like just posting everything on the internet, but it's working for them because it's literally giving them some kind of space. Like for her, she posted this and then she's like, yeah, I remember she got doxxed and you know she had to quit her job because she had like information about where she was in her Twitter, and it's like, yes, you got a platform, but you also have gotten to the space where people actually knew where you lived, and that's a whole. Once you start introducing the crazies, like you don't know what you got to protect yourself. But
that's a fact. I don't know what's gonna happen there. You get your address just thrown out on the internet. But yeah, I guess we're at the point where it's like nothing is private anymore, man. Everything has to be publicized. I remember when I first started to attend gentlemen's clubs, strip clubs, whatever you want to call them, back when I was in my early 20s, you weren't even allowed to bring your cell phone in there. Or if you did have it in there with you, you could not pull it out and start recording. Now, something like that is unheard of. Not only is it okay to record in there, those girls, their Instagrams and stuff are based on the fact that this is what they do. And then they launch OnlyFans based on that. So we've kind of just gotten to a place where nothing else matters as long as you're making money. Like it like literally nothing else matters. You could be doing whatever it is. It does not matter. Money is the deciding factor now. It's what relationships are based on. It's what everyone's cachet. It's like two things: your looks and money. You don't look good, you don't make money. If you don't do those two things, it doesn't matter. The world has changed, and I guess that would be considered old, but for me, it just that's not how it goes. But you know.
Hey, it is what it is. That's just a new thing. But as I said, this is a short one because there really isn't much to say there. I mean, it's like she was an attractive girl. She worked at Home Depot.
Exactly, the Home Depot girl. And then
why was this trending?
But and then Shaq got on his. You know, Shaq is well over 50 years old. This girl is like in her early 20s. I mean, it's nasty work. It is what it is.
Hey, going back to the stereotype that we talked about before, it's
of course
it's common.
Of course,
it's common. So, anyway, black to our.
Wow, I like the chat transition. Black.
That was black. But we're celebrating some big moments that happened, and we're gonna definitely try to find some of these too that are not necessarily always like the largest, because I think we need to celebrate some wins from smaller people also. But this is a Black Enterprise section. That's what we're gonna call it for right now. So the first part is Michael Jordan, whose name is everywhere. I mean, I think you literally can't be I would say you can't be black and not know who Michael Jordan is.
It's hard to be alive and not
it's-
know who Michael Jordan is, regardless of your
And
skin
it's not-
color.
And so he was majority owner of the Bobcats, and he sold the Bobcats. And it was a bunch of people bought it. But the part that was very interesting is that J. Cole also was part of that team to buy the Charlotte was it Hornets?
Yeah.
I thought it was the Bobcats.
Yeah. The name changed from the Hornets. But yeah, J. Cole is one of the people that is from a group of people that kind of got their money together to purchase this team. And I think that's a big flex on J. Cole's part, because honestly, I've been around a long enough time to have seen quite a few artists grow from one thing to the other. But I have to say the growth that I've seen from J. Cole is probably, in my time, the most impressive growth, because I even know someone who went to college with him, and her recalling of him just being a really just humble dude. But to see him develop into this person where not only is he still with the same person that he was with back before he became the juggernaut that he is today, he has kids, he doesn't put his whole life out there. He's not trying to be the most popping dude. He's not in the clubs trying to throw up Instagram posts. He's not wearing the biggest jewelry. He's not driving the fanciest cars and flexing it. This guy is just about breaking great artists, living a humble life, taking care of his family, being a freaking, like I said, a juggernaut of an executive, because he's a rapper and an executive. And it's just like, that is something to really applaud, man. Because even though he's not quote unquote black, he's, half black, half white.
We don't do that. We're not doing that.
Listen,
Go ahead.
I think
I want to say one thing. Sorry, I interjected and I apologize. But the one thing I want to say there is that we're not doing that, because I hate that when we start separating that, where it's like, oh, well, he's half, like, I remember Logic talks about it way too much. And I'm like, yo, bro, it doesn't matter, because according to the things in the past, if you were a quarter black, you're black. So like the half black, half white, we don't care.
He's black.
That man's black.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, continue.
Okay, well, I'm just saying we do as a collective recognize J. Cole as a part of the culture, period.
100%.
So
100%.
just to see that kind of growth, see his story, see where he came from, see where he is, see where he's going, and the fact that he's doing all of this while holding down almost like a conservative element, where he has the family, he has the wife, he's not out there with the thotties. I respect it, man. I respect that. I have a great deal of respect for this man. Listen, when it comes to his music,
100%.
I'm not his biggest fan. I started with the early work. He lost me after Forest Hill Drives for a little bit, and then the most recent work he's been putting out, I'm back in. So I'm not the biggest fan of his work as a whole, but him as a person, I'm all in with J. Cole, especially when you sit down and listen to this man's interviews. Like those interviews that he has with Angie Martinez, probably the most classic hip hop interviews in my personal opinion. I love those two interviews, and I've watched them multiple times. This man is a wealth of just information, and I can't say enough good things about J. Cole. Applaud that man. Being a partial owner, he's on his way to billionaire status, like Jay-Z that broke him. Applause.
And doing it without the extra stuff.
None of the nonsense. He's not in the blogs.
No drama.
I love it.
You understand? And I think that is why we have to highlight too, because it's the long route, right? He took the long route. I'm sure he could have done a lot of stuff but it shows two things: authenticity and integrity.
Woo! You said the word integrity. I love it,
bro. Those two things are if you will put a subtext to J. Cole, those are the two things you would attach to him. No drama, just an authentic dude. How I feel like the money hasn't changed him. He's just the same dude, and he's just putting on for his people, and he's living his life.
And do you see all the pictures and videos that pop out? Like, people will literally take flicks of him like at a hot dog stand. No security, no nothing. He's just out there. Yo,
Man of
that
the
is
people,
something
bro.
to look up to for young black men, bro. Applause to
It's a
J.
man of the
Cole.
people. I remember you used to see videos of this man riding his bike through New York.
Yep.
Like it was like riding his bicycle through New York, bro. Like
Humble.
and
Even
that's
I
real.
will ride a bike through New York.
Hey, that's a
Yo,
I
listen,
respect it.
that's
I
playing
respect
with your life, man.
It is. It is.
That's playing with your life.
So yeah, moving along to also shout out. There's a lot of buying of companies here.
Love
but
it.
Like Venus and Serena, they bought into the Miami Dolphins. I don't know. I don't remember the shares, but like either way, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
We're still watching. We're watching people take their money and invest it into something that gives them even more money. And to me, that is something worth celebrating.
Absolutely.
And something definitely worth talking about. So shout out to Venus and Serena. That's a big deal.
For real. And we have to highlight these with every episode because I think for a very long time in the black community, quote unquote, the culture, we've always seen the people above us who are doing well in business, entertainment, all of these things, kind of advertise their wealth by their homes and their cars and their shoes and their clothes and acquiring more and more women. You know, like that's kind of what you saw as being glamorous. To now see this turn of events happening where it's like we're owning businesses, we're owning teams. You got Floyd Mayweather who's talking about he owns a couple of skyscrapers in New York City. At least he's a partial investor in it. It's nice to see that we're actually doing things that matter, because for a long time, the other side, you know, non-black people, their wealth was always tied up in things like property and stocks and companies and things like that. They were never flexing jewelry and clothes and stuff like that. So it's nice to see that we have examples out here of black people owning things and investing their money rather than flexing.
And honestly, I think that it's a great thing to be shown and highlighted, which is why we're talking about it, because those things show you what the next step is. Like we always, like Jay-Z has said it, you know, we have, you know, only a few billionaires. We need 100, you know, a million more or whatever he said. And it's like seeing those people, seeing more people making decisions like that, it trickles down. It's like you're going. It's like, I don't even get too deep into it, but it's a lot about representation. It's like if you work somewhere at a company and everybody doesn't look like you in the senior management and your ideas climbing the corporate ladder, you know you have a fight ahead of you. But if you see somebody who may look like you or may have an experience like you, it's easier for you to be like, okay, cool. Well, I know there's a space that can be, you know, like at least attempted. And it might not be easy, but you still attempted. So I love to see this, and we definitely, like, we're gonna find more of these, but this I felt like June was popping off with a lot of these. And so finally, now this network has been in a challenging place for a long time. We're talking about BET. Ever since it was sold back in the 90s, it feels like BT really had no soul, right? It just kind of it had no soul. But now I'm not gonna put that pressure on Tyler Perry, who successfully acquired BT and VH1. But it is interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see where it goes now that it's actually black owned again. Because I don't know if Viacom knew what to do with BT.
Right.
So the moment that we're celebrating is Tyler Perry, who has, it's so funny. I feel like Tyler Perry has gotten a lot of crap from the black community, but keeps putting on for the black community. And it's very interesting. So
I can only hope that he doesn't turn it into, listen, I'm happy that it's black owned, but Tyler Perry's movies, I'm sick of and tired of seeing movies where black women are victims and black men are victimizers. as long as it doesn't turn into a victim black woman victimizer black man channel, I'm good. But yeah.
In all fairness, I think that one, let's get this man his flowers.
Oh yeah, he's got his flowers. I mean, come on. We know what Tyler Perry does.
Yeah. This is a big thing.
It is a big thing.
I do want to say that I think that what he has done is told stories that meet the demographic that want to see them. It's like, you know, the stuff with like Medea and all that stuff and everything like that. That stuff, there's people who can relate to that. It's not necessarily for me, but I can't imagine him taking that over and have it be like just the Medea show. I think he already does a bunch of other shows on BT, so it was easy. It's probably an easy sell for them. But as all in all, I think it's a good look because really I don't know what BT even stands for right now. I mean, I know what it means, acronym, yeah. But like, I don't know what it stands for. I don't know what they're like, right? So I salute this man, and hopefully, as we see forward, you know, we're able to see at least something different. Like I give Diddy a lot of credit for Revolt, and Revolt doesn't have the name shares of BET,
right?
Still, so this is kind of major. So yeah, salute that man.
Yep. Applause it up for him. Happens.
And also, in closing, salute you. If you made it all the way to the end of this, salute you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
100%. This has been another episode of Wrapped. This has been interesting content. We definitely went even longer than we've done in the past because we were feeling these content.
For sure. June was a very interesting month, and we were happy to be able to take it, put it into a cohesive package and wrap it up for you. So please be sure to join us when we do the same thing for the month of July. Hopefully it's an interesting month. Hopefully not too much bad news, but interesting news nonetheless, because we need something 100%. To talk about.
100%. So thank you. If you haven't, go ahead and give us a follow. Check out Aaron's channel on Pour Over Finance, linked in the bio, or linked in the description. And we will see y'all next month. Peace.
Yes, sir.